G'day, guys. Welcome back to the Supercoach Swordplay podcast. It is season 4, episode 14. As you can see, unfortunately, only the two of us tonight. Our poor brother Spilsy is out with a bit of gastro, so he's literally spewing this week. Janath, the poor bugger, he's pretty successful in his Supercoach score this week. We'll get to our round reviews in a little bit. But hey, Ben, brother, how's the weekend? How is life? How are you traveling?
Nah, doing well, mate. Doing well. It was a relatively stress-free weekend, not seeing Carlton play. Back to those levels this week. I guess didn't actually get to watch much footy on the weekend, which is surprising. But I guess that's it's just what Supercoach does to you, doesn't it? You just get so wrapped up in so much footy that it's just good to have a sort of a weekend off. And like, I'd be screaming at the TV sometimes with like the North game and stuff. I checked the scores at 3/4 time. My boy LD's on 75. Put the phone away. Didn't watch it at all, and he's on 147.
You didn't get
at the end
to
of the
enjoy
game.
that last one.
But it's,
so you sat through all the pain, and then you didn't actually get to.
No, I didn't watch any of it actually. Didn't watch.
Oh well, there you go.
Off the game, but I was checking the fan footy at 3/4 time, and yeah. So, but I'll tell you what. There's just some. Oh, this is just off topic from Supercoach, but sometimes footy, and I really feel bad for North because the fact they're in, one of my best mates is a North supporter as well, and geez, it just hurts so much. And the Carlton fans out there, you guys, we can relate because I remember about maybe it's 3 or 4 years ago, we were playing Hawthorn in Tasmania. This was when Hawthorn were finals contenders, that sort of thing. We were up, I reckon, 8 or 9 goals at one point, and Carlton used to give us 5 goals in a row just on a whim. And I remember we got ran over that day. And it was one of these losses where you feel like the world's ended. So hang in there, North fans. I know there's much, much brighter days ahead, and really putting up 83 points or 90 odd points and a half against the premiers, it's a big, big deal. So hang in there, lads.
Yeah, very well said, mate. And I'll tell you what, we could have a whole podcast, I reckon, discussing just AFL in general. You know, the 50-metre penalty, what Laura Kane's come out and said. It's just
whilst we
mate.
chat about Laura Kane, I tell you what, we are both spewing at the moment because whatever they're doing with the draft father-sons, we haven't had a good father-son since Jack Silvani, really.
We haven't since Will Ashcroft, mate.
Yeah, well, it's been a couple of years. As soon as we get a couple of good father-sons coming through, they bloody want to increase the points that we need to have for them.
Oh, no, it's like, come on, next year, after Levi, after the Camporelli twins, do what you want to do after next year.
Well, even then, it doesn't matter if it's Camporelli or the Ashcroft, you can't be implementing a rule in halfway through a season when this rule in particular, we both our teams planned for it by trading picks, trading into the back end of the draft to accumulate those picks. You can't, and then to rub the salt in the Gold Coast, get all these academy products for what, dime cents on a dollar sort of thing. It's just, just makes you sort of really question what's going on at AFL headquarters.
Do you think this is reactionary from what Gold Coast were actually able to do last year? And they've gone, we just can't have anything like that happen again, maybe. Look, it's a whole discussion, isn't it? We could be sitting here and talking this.
We do a Supercoach podcast.
Yeah, we need to get the Supercoach. We need to get the Supercoach. Maybe when we've got some spare time one of these weeks, which is absolutely not going to happen because we are super busy. I'd love to actually just have a general footy chat, mate, and take the Supercoach out of it. That'd be good, wouldn't it? But, mate, we better get to it. As we mentioned, as always, thank you very much to everyone that has bought a beanie donating to the Good Friday Appeal. We are very, very close to $200. So do us a favor, guys. Get us over the line. One more beanie, and we are at the magical 200 mark. So thank you very much.
SupercoachSwordplay.com, where to get those beanies, the only place to get those beanies.
Exclusive, SupercoachSwordplay.com. I need to have one of those, movie voices type thing, mate. But yeah, more of a voice for this, I think. So let's quickly get into the round reviews, mate. Now, very quickly, I will get into Spilsies. Unfortunately, as we mentioned, the great man isn't there, but he has sent us a little DM, mate, that we've got on the Swordplay chat here. So from the man himself, would love to be here and does obviously send his apologies. So 2015 for our man, huge jump in the ranks, if he says so himself. VC Zorko born in Grundy, Clark and Dowling. for Clary Moyle and Sexton. Didn't have
Sexton.
much faith in Sexton. I still have Janath. It might be
I
more
still got him
blind
as
hope
well.
than faith. I'm not too sure. We'll see. We'll cross that bridge when we get there. Spills reckons he's in a great spot this week. Look at having 23 to field, if you don't mind.
23?
So he'll be looping
Jeez.
Hutchinson and Revel. Hutchinson, Allen may be back this week, so we'll see what happens there. But this is his most friendly buy. So unsure whether or not to bring in Warner for a bit of cash gen or Sard with that DPP, as we'll have 7 primo mids next week with no swing with Warner at D6, Green at M9. So that's another talking point. All in all, very happy with where he's at.
Love it.
So not bad from the Spilsy. And I tell you what, mate, we knew that this would happen. The great man is starting to climb up those ranks. It was only really a matter of time. I'll jump in next, mate. I'm in the middle here. A 1943 for me. Pretty poor week. And red arrows for the first time in about a month, I think. So down 260 spots. But one thing we mentioned, brother, right at the beginning of these buys is that we need to look at these buys as a block. We don't look individually. We look at it as a whole block. I clearly knew this would be the buy that I'd really be struggling with. And sorry to tell you, Spilsy, but if Hutchinson does get up, you're sort of boasting around with your 21 on field. I might actually have 22, my friend. So we'll talk about that little flex a little bit later when I talk about my trades, Janath. But look, all in all, mate, as I said, a pretty disappointing week. I think many of us share the same premiums that are just really underperforming. Midfielders, I'm looking square at you. The tagger is back. You went through all the data last week, mate.
Man.
We might touch on that again in a couple of minutes as well. But the tag is killing my side. Someone like a Zeret, we're really concerned about this pick, mate, coming up in the next month or two with some of the opposition that he may be facing. But I did go with the Zorko VC as well. Dogger Jackson was probably my favourite score for the week because I didn't actually get to watch much footy either, mate, in the weekend. I watched my good mate Jake, who I teach with, play for local club in Wallen. Heater Shaw made an appearance for the Wallen Magpies, so I got home by about 40. Heater, solid without being fantastic, mate. But what I'm so happy with Dogger is that it feels like half my team's free. You got, your Luke Ryan, Fife, the Schlong, and it was Dogger that really stepped up this week. And he's usually the one that I'm worried about the most. So 115 from him. Not the biggest score in the world, but he's pretty much my hero for the week. I really love what he was able to do for me and brought back big bad Brody as well in that R2 spot. So you've had your Sweets, your Moyles. See you later, C graders. We're getting the A+ in All Australian Ruckman of the year, Brody Grundy. So really happy with that, mate. And all in all, yeah, not a great week, but looking forward to this one. Hopefully some green for me, mate. But brother, you are back inside that top 300 after spending just a week outside at around 305. Tell us about your Supercoach week, my man.
Yes, up to a season high ranking now, 261. It was the unexpected week, I'd say, because this was the round where I thought was, along with the first one, was probably the most difficult, just in terms of numbers. Only had 18. So to get 2043 really was helped by 18. Some of the ceiling raisers in the team. Houston and LDU on the Sunday, 174 and 147 respectively. Tim English looking like he wants to get paid was a big plus. 136. And look, yes, Grundy went bigger, but holding the faith and just seeing that sort of intensity has been good sort of comfort to say that English should have a good back end of the season, especially with the Bulldogs contending. Heaney, let's not look at the midfield, but apart from Bont, Heaney, Bont, Sorko VC. So there was a lot of 140s in this team, but like you're saying, DR, this midfield, I'll tell you what, Sarong, Butters, Dunkley, Tom Green, it's just a nightmare. And it just shows that is there a midfielder you could pick this week which you can comfortably say is not going to get tagged for the rest of the season? I think there's only a couple, like an Adam Treloar. Maybe I'm really looking at the second string midfielders at these teams, and there's not many that can push that top 8. So we'll chat about that. But yeah, in terms of trades, just did the one, and this is something that I've sort of had a recurrent theme throughout the years. If a player gets dropped, they're straight out of the team. So Riley Garcia, I thought is really unfortunate to get dropped. He would have been my 19th. but went to Dowling, so just did the straight sideways there. Banked up some cash, about 210K, which allows the trades we'll talk about later. But yeah, so all in all, happy with the week. Should have 20, including 18 primos this week. So hopefully those 18 primos play like primos, don't tag each other, and can fill up the top 18 there.
Beautiful, mate. You are absolutely on fire. And as always, you do sit at top of the pod there with 30,458 points. I'm sitting at their second, 3131. Spilsy, 29,740, making a big charge home. And all in all, I think the Swordplay crew as a whole, we're having a pretty successful year, mate. If I compare my rank currently to where I was at this stage last year, completely chalk and cheese. So, yep, going pretty well, I think, at this stage, mate. Now, very quick rant here. This bloke here. Now, anyone that is not right into AFL football, you're looking at the screen going, who is this bloke pretending he's asleep here? It's Toby Bedford, and he's been putting some of our midfielders to sleep. What happened this week, mate? Like, what on earth is going on? Toby Bedford rolls into the midfield. We're thinking, hang on, Toby, what are you doing here? And he goes to our man, Zach Butters. You would not believe it, mate. Who is this bloke? What is going on? Now, I must admit, as an AFL coach, I think it makes sense to tag, but come on, we're completing our sides now. We're looking for that last midfield type upgrade. And as you said before, mate, who do we even trust? Because taggers are back in vogue. And if we've got blokes like Toby Bedford just coming from the absolute stars to start locking down.
CBAs.
89. What world are we living in, Janath? Seriously, mate, what world are we living in when Toby Bedford comes in and gets 80+% CBAs? You just can't plan for this sort of stuff, mate. So that's my rant for this week, mate. Not just Toby Bedford. All you dirty taggers, come on, find some of the football yourself. And I knew it was coming, mate, with Windy. Lockie Neal 70. So I think I might be just up on you on Neal versus Dunkley over 2 weeks, but it would be minimal, mate, just a handful of points. So, buggy you taggers.
That's the thing, man. Like, Dunkley, even without the tag, I just hope that he would go bigger. And it's not looking like the best pick, but even then, Warner's probably the worst of the lot, and we thought he was one of the best picks that week. So, can't play. Mini rant here. I know this is a perfect segue to the next discussion, but come on. Dane Zorko, 112 at halftime. Okay, quiet third-ish quarter, and then my worst nightmare's fulfilled. Not only does Ross Lyon decide to take out, let's just say the CBA mid that they have, Jack Steele, doesn't plonk him out in defense or somewhere. Nah, let's go and put him on Dane Zorko. So I've got one of my midfielders not playing in the midfield and tagging my vice captain. It's a lose-lose situation. And I'm like, what in the hell is going on? What? Ross Lyon's going to be the first coach ever to run out 4 tags in one game at this point.
What? Why Jack Steele though, mate? Like, tell me why Jack Steele? Like, Jack Steele. Oh my goodness, mate!
And you know what? It worked. He stopped Zorko, and they kicked 7 goals. And you're like, is he a mad genius or something?
Actually, why Jack Steele? Because of that fact. Oh, mate, you don't see this sort of stuff coming. You can't plan for it. But look, it is what it is.
It's so funny, isn't it? Like in isolation, a Dane Zorko 141, and you're like, if you had no idea about the context of the game, you take that in a heartbeat. And it's like, you don't feel bad at all. But the fact is, with the context, 110 point first half, 30 points second half, you're like,
that's what it's like. The way I described it at halftime, doing absolute cartwheels. And then at full time, you're happy, but you're doing like half a jump. You know those Toyota ads where they do the big jump? It's like half of one of those jumps, I reckon. Like, you're happy.
Like an Oz kicker doing the Toyota jump.
That's I like that, mate. It's the Oz kick Toyota jump. That's the way that I feel about it. So, mate, it is a good segue, as we said, because we are going to quickly revisit this elite chart that you put together, and shout out to DFS as always as well, mate. Now, as we mentioned, it's hard to predict. Like, where has Toby Bedford come from? I know that he obviously didn't make this list up.
There's a couple to this list, actually.
But, what can you tell us, mate?
Well, we'll just have a look at that round 14, bro, and we'll just go through. And I like to just give full transparency just to make sure what went right, what wasn't, and what we can basically adjust from here. So Windhager to Neil was pretty obvious. That one's a tick. That one went through. Shields to Dacos was technically correct because Phillips started the roll and then Shields didn't finish the roll, but was
I was
played
going to
play
say,
that
it
role.
didn't really end, didn't
So, but the tag was there. It was clear intent to get Phillips in to tag Dacos, and I thought he did pretty well. Just looking at the scores at 3/4 time and then full time again until he got subbed out. We won't talk about it. That's a footy chat there. And then Jared Berry, again, went to Jack Steele. Wasn't sure whether it was going to happen, whether Steele was a player you would want to tag. Eventually, you guys went after him. And it was that bad that he got put to tag himself. So I've got no idea, but we'll say that's a tick there as well. The one that was sort of incorrect was Jordan going to Rankin. And the fact was I was probably looking, in terms of Jordan, I probably underestimated his ability to tag in terms of size. Because if you look at the players he was tagging, he wasn't particularly tagging anyone tall-ish. So Anderson, Walsh, Clark, Dale, they're all runners. So I was going for the running type. It made sense. It was Dawson or Rankin there. So they went to Dawson the first time round. Then Dawson went up forward, and Jordan wasn't going to follow him as a defender. And so I think they didn't tag for the rest of the game after Dawson went forward. So in terms of sort of recalibrating this in round 24, when Sydney play Adelaide again, Dawson will probably cop the tag again. So that's just one to keep in mind. It probably helps Isaac Rankin potential trade in. One's looking to trade him in, that he'll probably avoid the tag if they didn't go with it the first time around.
Absolutely, mate. Absolutely. And elite work.
Yeah, well, thank you, mate. I'll just very quickly, just looking forward to this week, because now we were saying there was only 6 last week. I say only 6, but now there's a couple to add into this mix. Does Neil Bullen tag? Does he go to a North midfielder? Which, look, LDU might get it. We'll have to wait and see. There's obviously the midfield vacancy opened up with Petrarca there. Petrarca not there, sorry. Max McElhaney was tagging on the weekend. He tagged Chad Warner. They were showing some footage on First Crack that the handovers didn't work sometimes, and Warner or Heaney got out the back. And so we'll really see. That's an interesting one because he's playing exclusively as a full-time mid now. He led the Crows for CBAs on the weekend with, let me just get this right. Oh,
what's going on in the world, Janath?
67% CBAs. He led the Crows for Max McElhaney. Yes, that's right.
Spell. Give me a spell. Oh,
and then the other one, obviously, is Toby Bedford. So as a Giant. Now, who does he go to? If they're playing Sydney, if we say that if Bedford went to Butters against Port Adelaide, is that probably a Errol, Heaney, Warner? It's like genuine. It's like a pot luck. It's a lottery who gets that tag, if there is a tag to begin with. So definitely one to keep in mind there.
Yeah, it's tough, that Sydney midfield, isn't it? Because if you tag someone, the other 2 blokes are most likely going to let loose. So it's a tough one, mate. But look, back to last week, 3 out of 4 pretty much, mate. And very, very impressive. And I tell you, we're going to have to keep revisiting this chart, possibly updating from time to time.
There's going to be another 8 columns at this point. They just keep coming.
We'll need to take Jim Cotter and Bossy out, mate, to add to the chart. Oh, that's not going to be a great feeling,
but very quickly as well, I think the Whitfield tag from Jordan is about a 90 to 95%, in my opinion. And Berry to Butters is also about a 90 to 95%. I think, given the success that the Giants had with going to Butters, you guys probably go there.
Yep.
And then, this is a tough one because Willem Drew did tag Tom Green in the first half. He's another one that's not here. And there's a dual Brownlow medalist again in that Brisbane midfield. And it's just the way. It's so hard.
But luggage. Tag Hugh. You killed it last week, you know.
But
give him some attention.
It's just up in air in terms of that.
Yeah, well, do you know what? I remember a very famous game very quickly where Port Adelaide were going to terrorise Lockie Neal, and I reckon we kicked about the first 8 goals of that game, mate. I don't know if you remember the vision. Mitch Robinson was
Which
was
one
coming
was
off
it?
and gave
Oh,
to the
yes.
bench, and
Yes.
it
Yes,
was one
yes,
of Lockie
yes.
Neal's best mates, ex-Freo
Yeah.
player. Was it Sutcliffe or
Um, yes, yes, yes. That's
Cam
right. Cam
Sutcliffe?
Sutcliffe. Yeah.
And a few dirty tactics there. The Lions boys weren't happy, but we absolutely embarrassed Port that day. Embarrassed Kenny. We're going to terrorise Lockie in my butt, Kenny. So good luck this week, boys. Trying to keep this great man down. Now, mate, I might take over very quickly
Go
here
for it, mate.
for the injuries here. So we'll look at some quick hot topics, and we'll start off with the Crows. Now, we obviously know Crouch is out for the season here, and you can feel free to add in whatever you want here, mate. I'm just taking a quick look here at the AFL website. Very, very exciting news. Will Ashcroft is only 1 week away. So whether or not they give him a bit of a run in the VFL, I'm not too sure. Bring him straight in. Either way, I'll be extremely excited. Very nervous, though, I think, mate, for his first game or two. But super excited to have Will back. This may
You want
not
a
be...
stat very quickly for that? I'll
Yes,
give you a
please.
stat because as a Josh Dunkley owner, I'm very excited for Will Ashcroft coming in because last year, with Will Ashcroft in the team, Josh Dunkley averaged 121.4. Without him, just 93.7. So that's a 28-point difference.
Wow.
And I'll just very quickly, I'll get one off of your boy as well, Lockie Neal. So clearly there's something there because 28-point difference just doesn't happen out of luck. It's a fair sample size, that sort of thing. And with for your boy Lockie, mate, 113 with Will Ashcroft, 97.7 without, so a 16-point difference there. So both the boys perform better with Will
Very
Ashcroft in the
nice.
team. There we
I'm
go.
very happy to hear that, mate. That is absolutely fantastic. Beautiful, mate. And look, with someone like Ashcroft coming in, some people may be worried about Bruce's job security, for example. But one thing that may help is that Noah Answorth is out for 4 to 6 weeks with a shoulder now. So he's another one of those fringe guys that are competing with someone like you, Bruce, because he can play your wing, you sort of your back up to your half forward as well. So that may be positive news for Brucey here. With your boys, mate, I can see Chera is 1 week away with a hammy. Doherty, very, very sad, mate, out for the season. Pitney is a test, and we know that different midfielders' averages are very much affected when he's in and out of the side. I believe Paddy Cripps may be one from the top of my head, mate. So do you think that he actually comes back in when he is fit, or do you reckon they're just going to continue to run with DeConey?
I don't want to give a definitive answer here because of how good TDK's been, but this week will tell a lot. If Pidnet's not named this week, I think we've moved past him as a dual combination. And we'll look for Pidnet and we'll look for TDK, and Pidnet will just be like an insurance, sort of give him a chop out when we're playing sort of a team that TDK shouldn't have too much trouble with. Because we've seen the turnover and the differential with Pidnet in the side versus no Pidnet and just TDK is astronomical. We play so much better in terms of speed when Pidnet's not playing, which makes sense given his size and whatnot.
Yep. So you're actually advocating very quick as a Carlton supporter to not bring him back in. You're happy with TDK solo. Yep. Awesome, mate.
There's times where I think that I don't want TDK to go off. Like I've never thought about that with a player, but every single centre bounce, you're like, TDK's in. I've got confidence here that we'll win this clearance. It's generational. It's crazy how good he is, man. Like the way he's come on this year.
I'm saying
he's generational.
Really?
This year, last year, I was telling him that he hasn't shown anything for him to be $1 million player. Right now, I reckon he's under $1 million. The way that he's changed that midfield dynamic,
wow,
it's insane.
Well, in the hot topics, we've got a big call.
If he played this way for the year, this may be the hottest topic. If he played this way, this last 3 games, if he played this the whole year, he'd be the All-Australian ruckman. Hands down.
Well, you look at his Supercoach average, and that would suggest very much the same thing, wouldn't it?
It's just Pitternet. That's the only sort of looming part to this, and the fact he's never done it before. But he's in incredible form. 130's last 3 games. Incredible.
All right, mate. Very, very exciting for Carlton fans. On to Collingwood now. Geez, we've only got an hour and 15 or something like that here, mate. So I don't have time to go through all this. But Jordan De Goey is a week away. Tommy Mitchell still 4 to 6. Pendles is 2 weeks away. And Joe Richards is 1 to 2. On to the Dons. Unfortunately, our man Sard, and he would have been an extremely popular pick after that fantastic game a couple of weeks ago, but he's now out for 6 to 7 with his ankle there. Draper's a test. Parrish is still 4 weeks away, so he's just not going to be super coach relevant. Reed doesn't even have a return date there. Heath Chapman, now this will be interesting. It looks like he'll be playing this week, I think, because he was a bit of a late withdrawal, more precautionary, and that may affect someone like a Warner, who we might talk about in the rookie data dump as well, mate. For the Cats, only 2 here, Cam Guthrie and a bloke I've never heard about, Ollie Wiltshire, a pelvis 2 to 4, so get better soon, Ollie. Nothing really on the Gold Coast front. The Giants, Cogs is a test for shoulder, so not too sure about him. Darcy Jones, also a test for anyone that may have held him for some reason. Ash may also be available. So, look, with Cogs in, do you think that may help someone like a Tom Green at all, mate? Or yeah? Well,
I think so.
Cogs get back in soon then.
The fact is that Tom Green's not an elite kick, but if he's got players to get the ball out to, it should at least help his disposal efficiency, which we've seen some of the hack handballs and whatnot that he's got going about. It's just not Supercoach friendly. So you should think with Kelly, Cogs back in. Now, does that affect Bedford? Like, if you got Cogs in, you're not going to play him off a half forward flank. You wouldn't think so. How does it look in terms of tagging dynamic? I guess we'll see with Cogs back in against Sydney what's that sort of looks like. Maybe Bedford does tag off a wing.
It'd be very interesting to see, mate. Onto the Hawks here. I don't think we've got much relevance there. The D's, obviously the big one is Christian Petrarca. Get well soon, champion. What a man he is and what a tough unit he is. Marty Hall, 1 to 2 weeks, but I wouldn't be relying on Marty to even come back into the side. I just don't see him close to the best 22. Will Dawson, shoulder, 4 to 5 weeks. Many of us traded him in, but I think pretty much just a loop at the moment. And the big one from last week, mate, which may have sent a few people's trade plans into absolute disarray, is that Simpkin was out with a hamstring. So he'll undergo a fitness test later on this week. So I tell you what, one of my good mates brought him in and didn't hear the news, so stuck with him at the moment. So I'm hoping for you, Ollie, that Jai Simpkin is back, mate. We know that obviously the news has come through that Butters has been successful in his appeal. How do I feel about this as a super coacher? Yeah, pretty good.
You and I are the same, mate.
Oh, you know.
It's one of those ones where you're like, it's good, you own him, but you're like, when you're in a good position for a round like this, a little bit of carnage wouldn't hurt, you know?
Oh, no. Just, throw a bit of a spanner in the works for some others here, mate, because we can cover it. I'm a long man, obviously, as well.
We are ethical citizens, so
that's right, mate.
We enjoy him getting off.
All right. Well, you made a bold prediction before. I'm going to make a bold prediction now.
Here we go.
Hoping I can get to best 22. Butters won't be my best 18 this week.
Oh.
There we go, mate.
I can see it.
Barry's going to do a job. Fifey's going to step up this week again, mate.
Give me an over-under, DR. What are we looking, 65?
I'm going under 67.
Under 67, okay.
So I reckon Barry will make him quieter than what Windy did to Neil, just by a little handful of points there, mate. So Zachary Butters won't be my best 18 this week, my big call, and DeConing's going to be in about 20 million, the way that you're talking about him, mate, by the end of the season. Shea Bolton, he's got a corked leg, apparently. Wasn't across that one, mate. Geez, there's a big list here. I don't think anything else
and
is
Kane McCall still can't get a full game.
Oh, how frustrating is that, mate? You know, we talked about, the McAuliffes, the Sullivans, the Rebels that week, and it just unfortunately hasn't worked. It was, remember after that brilliant first half he had, everything has literally gone downhill. Since that great first half, mate. So very unfortunate for those that did particularly pay up a little bit more for McAuliffe. The Saints, nothing too relevant there that I can see. Mills is 1 to 2 weeks away, apparently. So it'll be really interesting where he fits in the side. And Parker will be due back around 18 if he even gets back into the side. Oscar Allen looks to be returning this week, which may affect someone like a Hutchinson's job security. So if you were planning on trading him in for a warm body this week, I don't know if he's actually going to get there because you've got, already your Watermans, your Darlings, even a Marrick as well. So there's a bit of competition now that Allen is likely due back. And with the Dogs, Caulfield is actually a test for his shoulder, but I'm assuming he'd come back through the VFL anyway. Harms, hamstring for a test. And Baz Smith, not relevant, but obviously out for the season. So that's our hot topics. Injuries for the week, mate. Anything you wanted to add on that before we move on to our rookies?
Yeah, just because the last one that wasn't mentioned there, mate, that's all good, is Colby McKercher is not on the injury report. So it's almost one that the fact that he's not on there's the sign is that he's expecting to play this weekend, whether that's at VFL or AFL level, yet to be determined, but that may impact sort of the ceiling of a Sack Fisher, who had an uncharacteristically poor game by foot on the weekend.
Yeah, no good for the Fish. I tell you what, I hope that pick works out, mate. How bad would it be, trading out the Fish, trading him back in, and then letting him loose in the pond again, mate? In the big Supercoach ponds, it would. I tell you, that would be shattering, mate. Again, you've done some elite work here, and unfortunately, as we can see here from the graphic, a fair bit of grey there. The cupboard is absolutely bare this week, mate. But very quickly, take us through the rookie data dump.
Yeah, so just very quickly, really bare bones this week in terms of the rookies and the players we have available to bring in. Just very quickly, one play here, I've put in a sort of a shout out for the kind of season that he's had. Massimo D'Ambrosio, 458,800 now. He's had 5 straight games above 95, including 4 tons in that mix. He's sort of gone under the radar since most of us traded him out at the top end. I think in the top 1% is barely owned by many, but he's still owned by 19% of the competition. And so really well done if you hung fat with him, especially through some of those poorer games where I think Hawthorn weren't performing overly well, which was like almost goes to show that D'Ambrosio is almost a barometer for them.
The barometer. Yeah.
The barometer. So really well done if you held on to him. Now let's talk about some of the options that we do have this week. And yeah, like I was saying, it is really bare bones. We got Jai Menzie, who was playing as a general defender, as a lockdown defender against Carlton, had a couple of intercept marks. My concern with him is that he's an elevated price, about 210K, forward only, and he was probably covering for Mason Redmond, and then even more so when Nick Martin went into the forward line in quarter 3 against Carlton. So yeah, I personally can't go there just with the price. I don't think that his job security is good enough to validate that sort of price tag. And similarly, I think maybe less so. Carl Warner, 134K. Heath Chapman was a laid out with hamstring tightness or awareness, and Justin Longmire has said that he should be right to return. Chapman, that is. So whether Warner's on the outer, especially after that poor performance, I know my boy Ross brought him in, and for his sake, I hope that he holds, because there's plenty of poor players on the day for Fremantle. So someone should make way ahead of Warner, but you just never know after losses. Bailey Lowry is an interesting one, because in the preseason he was sort of being touted as a midfielder, as sort of a auxiliary midfielder, given the loss of James Harms and James Jordan in the off season. He's now at 111.5K after a couple of sub-affected scores. He scored 46 in forward with, I think it was 15% or so CBAs after Christian Petrarca got injured. He was the sub that game. So really, do we see perhaps a potential rookie here with a good role? It is a bit speculative. Got a break even of 19, is playing North Melbourne this week at the MCG. So definitely one to consider if he's named, and if he is not named the sub, I think that's definitely one to consider there. Quinton Narkle, a bit like last year, he's just not the best cash cow, and I think it's just easy to pass on him. And then I guess the other one is Jack Hutchinson. Does he go out for Oscar Allen? Forward only. So for Spills' sake, let's hope that he holds. But yeah, there's a bit of speculation there whether or not that he does hold his role. So in terms of a plain rookie DR this week, we either need a debutant. One that is sort of floating the rounds is Clay Hall from the West Coast Eagles. We were sort of touting him up in the
preseason.
preseason.
Yeah.
Dom Sheed is out this week, same as Tim Kelly and same as Harley Reid. So there's definitely a role to be filled in that Eagles midfield. And I think that may play a bit into your trades a bit later on, Diaz, when we get into them. But yeah, it really is, if you're looking to make up a number, Carl Warren, if it's named, number 1, Bailey Lowry, number 2, and then any rookie that's named to debut. That's how I'd rank them, because all the good rookies that we want to bring in are next week. They're next week's
Right.
or the week after. Do you have any differences to that, Dia?
I don't think so, mate. I don't think. I'm just looking at Laurie's price, 111,500. It's a really weird sort of a price, isn't it? You don't sort of see that price every day, do you? But look, at this stage of the season, we know what it's like. We are scraping at the bottom of the barrel. And I know for lots of people, they're asking themselves a question. Do I jump on one of these blokes? Like anyone here in the screen, I've got no confidence with job security moving forward. So do I actually grab onto one of these guys and hope that they can get a few games, or do I just go right down and get a loop at 102K? I think that's going to be a big question for lots of people this week. And I suppose it's very team dependent. With that extra money, can you get to that Uber premium? It's such a tough week. It's been a tough month, really, hasn't it, for downgrade options? We'll buy McAuliffe at close to 200K. It's the sort of realms that we're working in at the moment, mate. We can't be picky here at the moment. So as you said, I'm just looking for a green dot, mate. I'm looking for a green dot at a bargain basement price, hopefully, and I think that's pretty much good enough. But one thing that would really get me over the line is DPP, mate. I think if you can get DPP in your side at the moment, that's going to be crucial for the run home.
Yeah, just very quickly on that, sorry, just my ignorance with Bailey Lowry. He wasn't the sub. He was actually named in the start in 22, 66% time on ground, which was the lowest amongst the non-sub affected players. So that's probably not promising. But with Petrarch injured, does that change things? You'd almost want to wait a week, but at the same time, you're like, is it too risky to wait a week given his break even? Yeah, I'd like to see that roll and see what it is going forward, unless you really have to jump on someone this week. The other thing in terms of rookies, and it's a really great point you raised, DR, about the DPP, is the fact is you don't want to end up with 2 rookies in defense that are def only, or 2 rookies in the forward line that are forward only. And 100%. A great example of this is if you brought in Carl Warner, or you already have a Zach Reid or Nick Caulfield, it's going to make it really hard to get an Ari Schoenmaker next week, because say that Schoenmaker eventually gets dropped, you basically got 2 rookies that have got speculative job security with no DPP flexibility to get him in there. And that's what we were saying a couple of weeks ago with Will Dawson. Even if he gets injured, he's probably not getting the points, but at least you got a looping option that can be moved between multiple lines that plays for a team that has a good loop schedule. And if you want a full loop analysis on the 102K rookies, go check out the Third Man Up. Ross put out a post a couple of days ago, just sort of highlighting which rookies on which teams have the best sort of loop in fiction. North Melbourne is right up there with West Coast.
Beautiful. He does some great work, doesn't he, Roscoe? But awesome. As we mentioned, mate, this is very, very bare, this table. However, people, get ready for this one. Now, we see Janath come up with some brilliant tables. We've seen that for the last couple of years here. The screen's full, but I've not seen a table as full as this. And Janath, you are going to have to talk me through this, mate. Before we do get into it, this is courtesy of Arson Dragon. So this bloke is an absolute legend of the community. He's a big supporter of ours, tunes in every week. I've had some great chats with him, and what a ripping human he is. This is all his great work here. Janath, I'm going to need you to explain Arson's great work here, because I'm just not bright enough, mate, to be able to look at this and take it all in. We need someone with some big brains like yourself, mate. Right. But that's you, Arson. Janath, talk us through this, please, mate, because it is mind-boggling the amount of work that's gone into this.
First of all, like you said, mate, big kudos to you, Arson Dragon. This is absolutely brilliant work. And Yeah, can't thank you enough, especially for doing this and then sharing it with us as well. It's we truly appreciate that, mate. Let's just start off with firstly saying that the non-pixelated version of this, because you can imagine trying to get this many tables into a small graphic to put on a screen is very difficult.
Yeah.
The non-pixelated version is available again at our most recent tweet on the Third Man Up account. Full credit to Arson Dragon. But let's just say there's 3 rows and there's 3 columns. So you got the rows going across and you got the columns going down. The rows going across, they split basically the total Supercoach points conceded by a team in the first row, the rank versus a position in the second row, and then the plus minus percentage difference from the positional competition average in the third row. Now, this is all for Supercoach, and this is the beauty of it is, this is the novelty of this data is that DFS Australia do great work with their defense versus position data. And that's what we share in the Captain's Corner until now, because now we have the Supercoach data. And this is exactly what we've been wanting for many years now. But let's have a look at this. So in the first sort of row, we can see that there's the green for the inside mids. Basically, inside mids have scored the most points, but we've got to consider that every team has maybe 4 to 5 inside mids compared to 1 ruckman. So it obviously makes sense that the inside mids have scored the most points. So this first row is probably not the most informative, but it does show the point separation amongst the positions which are listed. So Des Kick is a designated kicker. So what we're really looking at, your Luke Ryan, Dan Houston, Errol Goulden,
Bailey Dale,
Dane Zorko, Bailey Dale, those sort of players. So really players that are designed to specifically get the ball out of the defense. Zach Fisher. General defenders, so they're your typically lockdown defenders. This includes your key defenders like Harris Andrews, but it also includes general defenders like a Brandon Starcevich, those type of players. But you can see clearly that designated kickers score more points than general defenders. And that's highlighted by the green versus orange contrast there. General forwards, so this is really your Dylan Moore, Toby Green, Toby Bedford until recently. Those sort of players that really are not your tall forwards, but they're not your forward mids like Christian Petrarca types.
Yep.
You have your inside mids. I think that's pretty self-explanatory. You have your key forwards, so really the big boppers down there, Charlie CurNOW, Harry Mackay, Joe Danaher, Aaron Norton, those types of players. And typically they're very, very sort of domino-y. They're very topsy-turvy. And very interestingly, and this is just a point that I just saw straight up, Sydney have got the least points conceded, which makes sense. Sydney concede the least points to key forwards. But one of the teams that concedes the most points to key forwards is Geelong. And we'll come to this in another slide, but I think this is very important because Carlton plays Geelong this week. And this, I think, gives a lot of credence to bringing in a Charlie CurNOW, Harry Mackay this week. Your ruckman, pretty self-explanatory again. And then you've got your wing defenders. So these are typically, again, they're your attacking defenders, which are not your designated kickers. So a good example of this is like a Jordan Clark, I think is a great example of a wing defender. Sam Closey as a pure wing. Massimo D'Ambrosio is probably the perfect example of this positioning. I think the biggest the best 2 rows here is the second and the third one, because we can see the full season rank. So the 3 columns. The first column on the left there is the rank versus position for the full season. The second column is for the last 5 rounds. So basically round 10 to 14 for teams that have played all those games. But again, because there's been the bye. So rounds 9 to 14. And then the last 10 rounds in the third column there. So that would be rounds, what would that be? Round 4 to 14 with each team having a bye there. So that's a pretty big sample size. So if I was just to go on a DR, would you like a last 5 rounds, last 10 rounds? I reckon last 5 rounds is the best picture, isn't it?
Yeah.
All right. So the team that you want to target for designated kickers, number 1, Richmond. Number 2, St Kilda. Number 3, Fremantle. The teams you want to avoid, Adelaide, number 16. Brisbane, 17. Carlton, 18. So straight away, those are the teams you want to be targeting for your designated kickers. I'll skip the general defenders because really you're probably not going to have many key defenders as such. Even a Jeremy McGovern is classified as a designated kicker.
Okay.
I'll skip general. I'll talk about general forwards very quickly because some may have sort of those Dylan Moore types.
Yeah.
So Melbourne is the number one team to target for your general forwards. Then it would be Geelong and then Richmond. So we're seeing a common pattern here with Richmond.
Yeah.
And then the teams you want to avoid is Brisbane is 16. So Brisbane, we're seeing a very stingy pattern approaching here.
Yeah.
Essendon at 17. And then, why can't I see it? Hold up. I can't see 18. Almost. Oh, no. 18 is Gold Coast. So Gold Coast is at 18. Interesting.
Very.
But here's the inside mids. And this is very interesting because I didn't think this at all. But Carlton is the easiest team for inside mids to score against. Which I'm like,
Amazing.
Alex Chincotta who?
Yeah.
What? That's incredible. St Kilda is the second easiest. Richmond is the third easiest.
Poor old Richmond, geez.
Poor old Richmond getting beat up on.
Yeah.
And then in terms of the hardest, we got Hawthorn at 16. Makes sense that Hawks midfield is much, much improved. Sydney at 17 makes a bit of sense. And then Brisbane at 18. Seriously, guys, no one can score against you guys.
Our boys. Jeez, wish it was
Zachy Butters maybe in 450 here.
Yeah. Told you, mate, not my best 18 this week. Zachy, doesn't matter if he's rubbed out or not, mate.
We'll talk very quickly again at the key forwards and then the rucks, and then we'll sort of just finish up there. But West Coast are number one for the key forwards, followed by Geelong. So that's what I was sort of talking about there in terms of possibly targeting the key forward matchup this week. And then Melbourne at number 3, which again is quite surprising. But to be fair, their defense since Jake Lever has gone out has been quite suspicious or suspect. So that's one sort of makes a bit of sense.
Yeah.
And then in terms of the hardest, so you got Fremantle at 16, Hawthorn at 17, and Essendon at 18. So
interesting.
We're looking maybe to avoid. I know for a fact that Carlton only plays Hawthorn off those 3. So potentially, does that give a bit even more advantage towards going to one of the Blues key forwards this week?
Possibly.
We'll discuss that a bit more in the mailbag. And then finally, with the ruckman, number 1 is Port Adelaide. So you want to be targeting ruckman against Port Adelaide. So this week, for instance, Oscar McInerney, not overly Supercoach relevant, but still nonetheless. Number 2 is Geelong. Number 3 is Melbourne. Would you look at that? Oh, no, sorry. I'm looking at the wrong column here. What am I looking at? Sorry. Geelong, number 2. Number 3 is Hawthorn. Sorry. I was like, Max Gordon. That's not possible. There we go.
Maxie, what are you doing,
Maxie, what are you doing? Number 3 is Hawthorn.
Okay.
And then in terms of the bottom 3 there, GWS Securin Briggs, number 16. And this is supported quite positively. So he was one of the easier matchups at the start of the season, but he's sort of become one of the easier ones now. Oh, harder ones now, sorry. Number 17, we got Sydney, so Brodie Grundy, obviously. And then number 18, this is a bit of a cause for concern, and we'll talk about this later in the captains, but one of the top captain options this week, Maxi Gawn after a loss. We know how big he goes, but Tristan Cherry is the hardest ruckman for opposition ruckman to score against in the last 5 weeks. Just one to keep in mind there.
Oh, interesting.
And I'm not going to bore you with all the numbers, but in that last row, it just shows the percentage increase or decrease from the competition positional average when playing each of these sides. So this is basically the let's say the nerdy version of the second row, because the percentages are basically how we come up with these rankings. And so Arson Dragon, once again, thank you so much for letting us share this data on an open forum like this. We truly praise all of this. We made it available on the Third Man Up as well. So go check that out for a full breakdown. But yeah, that basically shows which teams to target this week and sort of into the next couple of weeks as well, whilst this matchup data holds true. Hopefully, in a couple of weeks, we'll have an updated one that we can share again, sort of maybe even look back on, seeing if there's any sort of changes given the taggers are now in vogue.
What elite work. What elite work, mate. Thank you very much for talking us through that as well. You did make a lot of sense there. And again, Arson, salute to you. Big shout out, mate. This is absolutely fantastic. Would love to get you on to have a chat at some stage as well, mate, if you're ever available. So thank you very much again, and cheers for taking us through that, brother. We are now on to the mailbag. So as usual, thank you very much to everyone that has sent through a question. I've got no idea how many we've got this week, mate. Jeepers.
29.
We're on about 30. So I don't know if we'll have the time to get through everything, but as usual, the ones that unfortunately, if we don't get to them, we will absolutely reply to those during the week. We are, on a bit of a time schedule tonight.
Let's do this, Dia. I've got an idea. Let's do this. 45 seconds a question. I'm going to get a timer up.
Oh, yes.
We're just gonna,
all right.
We're going to rapid fire this.
Oh,
and if it dings,
good,
it'll ding. All right, wait. Can you
see
are
this? Good, mate.
All right. I'll get you get started, Dia. I'll get this set up.
All right, mate. What elite work. I'll tell you what, you're a clever man. All right. Thanks always, guys. As we said, let's get into it. First one is from Timmy Too Far. G'day, Timmy. Is Adams a D6? I reckon that's F6. Probably.
F6?
Taylor Adams, no. I'm guessing. F6.
Let's
saying
say
an absolute no to that. No?
Yeah. No.
Pretty easy.
Let's go.
All right, Timmy. Land of the Bishops. G'day, blokes. I'm in need of one last mid under 580k. My choices are Day, Taranto, Liver. As Hawksman is leaning Day, I would too. Day. Beautiful. Oh, mate, we are firing through these. I don't think that needs a lot of explanation as well. For both that hot on it and agree like that. Beautiful. Next one is from Silvertop Hurley. G'day, legend. Which would you go for F5 and F6? Rankin and Jackson, Rankin and CurNOW and James.
Same question I have.
I would absolutely say number 2. However, I just think that Jackson ruck cover, or would that make up for probably CurNOW's potentially greater average? I would actually. Oh, do you know what? Nah, I'm still going 2. I'm guessing have a trade in the bank if there's too much change in the ruck. I'm going number 2, Janath. How about yourself, mate?
I would say 1. And I'd say 1 with the fact that you'd want to get CurNOW in as a sideways to end the season. But I think that Jackson ruck cover could be mighty helpful. But even then, this is the exact scenario I'm in. CurNOW Jackson doesn't sound overly bad if Adelaide just put in the towel. Because you get the ruck cover and you get the ceiling possibly with CurNOW. And you're not paying that elevated price with Rankin. Just one to weigh up, mate, how important the ruck cover is for you. Maybe if you've got 5+ trades, I'd go Rankin and CurNOW so that you can bring in Jackson at a later point if really need be.
That's a good point. Like, how many trades have you got? Yeah. Good on you, mate.
Beauty.
Thank you very much. Next one is from our great man, Andrew Rakchek. How are you, mate? G'day, guys. I'm going Sexton as my final upgrade to complete my team. I'm in a predicament as to what to do next. Would you, 1, upgrade Tom Green to Rankin next week as a luxury trade via DPP, or 2, trade Brucey to Rosie, keep Green and have that 23rd premium? So it's basically Green to Rankin, or keep on to Green and go your Rebel to Rosie. I'm going Rebel to Rosie, mate, myself. How about you?
Because it's going to be next week, see how Green goes with Cogs in the team. And then if he's still no good, I'd get Rankin in, because I think Rankin is more for best 22 player than Rosie is. And there's only going to be so many weeks where you get, if Green scores 100, are you taking it? Are you gonna get Rosie on for 85? It's just a lottery at that point as well.
That is a very, very good point, mate. All the best of luck, brother. Next one is from Aaron. G'day, boys. Final defensive upgrade, Ridley or Houston? Leaning towards Ridley, but it might be a bit of Bombers bias. I'm asking myself the same question if I go a different route with my trade outs. Ridley plays St Kilda and Collingwood, which I really like. I'm not sure if he plays Richmond off the top of my head, but I definitely know he plays those two. I think with Houston, you've probably got that ceiling over Ridley. In saying that, I really wanted Houston at the start of the year for that Adelaide Oval run. Look, you're a Houston owner, Janath. Would you go one way or the other confidently here, or are you very much sitting on the fence with this one, mate? How do you feel?
I like Ridley. Essendon have a really good run to finish the season. Oops, we're going over time. We're going over time.
Right.
But yeah, Ridley has the role, has the intercepts, which I think is something that Houston doesn't have, and he won't. It's a really tough one. If you enjoy watching Ridley play, it just makes sense to go Ridley in that sense.
Yeah, I actually had Ridley in front. It's just after Houston's week last week, I'm sort of back thinking, oh, do we go Houston? But yeah, my initial trades this
Can't
week
be too reactionary, mate.
True, very true, mate. Oh, here we go. Now, Janath, we're in the presence of greatness here. George's a great man. How are you, brother? Hope you're well, mate. What do you guys think CurNOW averages for the rest of the season? Last year, been inflated by West Coast games where he's had the 2 times 175 plus, but has a soft run for now. Great question, George. And Janath, you are the man to talk about this being a Carlton supporter, mate. I'm interested to know as well. So, what do we reckon here?
I'm going to put a quick pause to this because there's 2 parts to this, and I think it's not as simple as talking about CurNOW because we want to think about Harry Mackay in this same realm as well. So CurNOW is not so much playing at the highest level that he was last year in terms of goals and whatnot. But one of the things that CurNOW has done really well this year, in a very specified role, is going back into defense to stem the flow or to finish off games.
Yes, that's what I love.
And I think this really elevates his sort of ceiling. He's not playing up the ground as much, but it really elevates, not his ceiling, sorry, his floor. Because in games where he's not so much involved or is being towed up by an opposition, one of the things that Vossi hasn't been afraid to do is put him back in defense and sort of stem that flow. And this really does help him there. That's something which Harry Mackay, I feel, doesn't have, because Harry Mackay's sort of floor comes from moving up the ground, getting those sort of marks on the wing and then flooding back into the forward line as the ball comes there. And he is not playing so much that second ruck role. Even with TDK, we've seen Matt Kennedy, Paddy Cripps sort of take up ruck time there. So it's not like a specified R2 role. Given this, I think CurNOW can average, George, this is going to be a very large range, mate, because when you got Richmond, North, Hawks, Collingwood, West Coast, St Kilda, teams that he all normally has a favourable run on, even Geelong this week, we saw with that matchup data, I think he can get to 100, let's say 100 flat on the run home. I'd say it's tough because he's going to have 70s, 75s in there, but he's also going to have, I think, those spike 130 games in there as well. Just as a fact, he hasn't kicked 5 goals in the season yet, mate. In this season yet,
Hasn't he really?
Kicked 2. He's kicked
Charlie
2 goals at least 2 goals in every game we played.
So consistent, but we haven't really seen that.
We haven't seen that big bag yet. We haven't heard about the big bag yet. And that's what I think is holding him back.
Yeah.
But I think he's ready to explode in the second half of the season, especially, and this is a really big one. I'm not sure if he's going to hold it for finals, but he had a really poor final series last year. Like really, really poor. He's towed up in all 3 of the matchups against McCartan, May, and Andrews or Payne. This is he's gonna come out firing in the second half of the season. He's leading the Coleman. I'm saying he's going to come out firing. That's how good he is. But yeah, I'd go CurNOW above Mackay if that's your dilemma there, George.
So you're an advocate for bringing in CurNOW this week, mate, if you're looking for that F6 type?
If you're looking for a ceiling raiser, CurNOW's the one. But you have to be able to stomach the 70s, the odd 70, because he's a key forward. It's going to happen. We leave Melbourne twice, and that's to play GWS at Giant Stadium, which I think is a bad matchup. Sam Taylor's historically got the better of him. And then West Coast at Optus Stadium. He's played well, but I don't think West Coast had Barras in either of their matchups last year. So it's just one to keep in mind there. But the other games, all at Melbourne, couple under the roof at Marvel, should be feasting for Big Charles.
Jeez, Geelong, Richmond in his next 2. A couple, then it's North, West Coast. Jeez, St Kilda to finish off with. I tell you what, mate. Ooh, I reckon that maybe after this week, it may be a luxury, maybe a sexton to Big Charlie.
What do you see him averaging, mate?
I was going to say around the 95 mark. I wasn't as confident. Yeah, well, look, as you said, it's that range, isn't it? It's that range. And the big thing in here is a key forward, as you mentioned. Like, he's going to have those dud type games where we're going to see his floor. But looking at the opposition here, and matchup is so important for the last half of the season. There are some very, very juicy matchups there, mate. Some very, very juicy matchup. And he's the type of bloke that can even go you 170, can go you 180. And at the end of the day, if he does throw out a 60, a 70 here and there, if you couple that with a 180, it balances out very much. If you're a league player, he could be an extremely frustrating own because he's going to win you some league matches one week. He'll lose you potentially another league match the next week. But yeah, look, I think 95 is very fair. I think he could get to triple figures, probably not much more than that, just given the fact he's a key forward. And
He's
it's
averaging 90 already, though, mate. Like, we think that he's having a poor season so far. He's averaging 90. Even if he averaged 90 from here on out, it's not the worst. We've got Tom Green is averaging 80 since his injury.
Mate, seriously, sideways. Get bloody Heaney into the midfield. get CurNOW in for Tommy Green.
Then the jump from 90 to 100, I don't think is overstated with the games coming up.
Yeah, no, I agree, mate. And I can't disagree with anything you're saying, particularly about Carlton and Supercoach. But look, we did break the 45-second rule there, but one of the absolute goats of Supercoach and content creating, I think we have to do that. Cheers, George. Hope you're well, brother. And would love to have you on one week as well, mate. All the best, bud. Our next one is from Michael Murray. G'day, Mike. Enjoyed watching every week, fellas. Appreciate you, man. Thanks for content. Thoughts on the blue? I have 6 trades after this. Ridley could be Merritt, could hold off on CurNOW and get Rankin next week. So out goes Steele, Richards, and Jolly Boy. In comes Ridley, CurNOW, and our man starred as a bit of a loop. You ticking that one off, mate?
Yes. And again, this comes to the same dilemma. If you don't own Merritt, is it like, I'm thinking even Sinclair next week? Is it Merritt this week or Sinclair next week is the sideway from Steele? Because I remember when I came to yours, mate, I was very, very strong on trading out Steele at this buy. And
yes, you were. Yeah.
I was saying I need a good score from him in the West Coast game so it doesn't tank his cash. But I was always thinking Merritt. And now with all these tags, it's like, sorry, this is me. This is me. This goes to show who's chewing up the time here. But
gas bag.
Merritt versus Ridley. Oh, it's not right. It's not right to say Ridley, but in a way,
I know
it feels right.
what
do you think? What would you say?
I'm sadly with you, mate. As weird as it sounds, yes, because I'm so paranoid about taggers, mate. I'm so paranoid about taggers, and I just think that some defenders are safe. I've already seen. I've had a couple of questions as well. Do I bring Dacos into the midfield and just target another defender because we just have no trust or faith in some of these mids? And I don't think it's his craziest move. I think Spilsy may be looking at something like that, mate. So all the best there, brother. Thank you very much for the question. Next one's Lucas. Would you rather Walsh and CurNOW or Rosie and Rankin? I'm going Walsh and CurNOW. I'm going your two boys, mate. I haven't got a lot of faith in Connor Rosie, to tell you the truth.
No, neither. Even if he gets to 380k, you need to see a score from him that makes you think, yep, that's the Rosier fold before you can bring him in.
Yep, agree, mate. Next one, another one of our favorites here. Ask question every week. The Angry Chihuahua. How are you, man? Good evening, legends. Looking at using 3 trades this round. 1, is still a trade out this round.
You can, yeah.
Yes, you can. 2, looking to trade him out for Zorko. Okay.
He could get tagged by McEntee.
True.
That Port Brisbane game is littered with tags, I'm telling you.
It is, isn't it, mate?
There could be 3 or 4 tags in that game alone.
Yeah. Yo, Merritt, Ridley, CurNOW. Who would you bring in? Thanks. I'm going Ridley first for me.
Yeah.
I'm almost tempted with CurNOW after chatting with you, mate. At number 2.
Ahead of Merritt.
Well,
you're going to put Merritt at the last. You're going to put him last. Oh, that's tough. Oh, I don't know if I could do that. To sack Merritt. Merritt hasn't gone below 90 this year. I think that's something that we're overstating. He's been tagged already a couple of times. Liam Shields had a hard tag on him. Chincotta had a hard tag on him. So even then, he raises his floor with those tackles. I don't know if I can say the same for a Yo type, because yes, he does have that ceiling, but he's got the injury risk to go with it.
So what are you ranking them, mate? Are we both agreeing Ridley's the number one target on this list out of Yo, Merritt, Ridley, and CurNOW? Or are you?
I'd almost say Merritt's one. I'd still say Merritt's one above Ridley.
Wow,
There's something about Ridley.
Yeah.
Just something about Ridley that it doesn't feel right, because we know that Merritt, Essendon are competing for finals. There's no way that Merritt just doesn't put an effort because he's getting tagged. He's going to fight his way to 100 at least.
Suppose look at what he scored with Chincotta tag last week or the week.
21 touches for 125.
Gee, it's elite. And that's why you want to tag someone like Zach Merritt, isn't it, mate? Because he's just one of the most damaging players in the comp, if not the most damaging.
I guess the other thing with that, very quickly, Merritt against West Coast is probably the best matchup captaincy-wise this week. And I think we got to pay attention to that, because there's not a lot of good captaincy options this week that are not going to get tagged or have a good matchup.
All right. Well, we'll finish off with the captains after our mailbag, my brother. Next one is Supercoach is live. Hey, man, trade Dylan Moore to CurNOW and bank 90K, or trade Steele to Walsh, Rao, Anderson, or Yo. Already got sucked in with Oliver and Green. Completed team with 5 bench cover. 4 trades left as cover after this move. So, CurNOW over Moore. Steele to Walsh.
No. If there's any way you can hold Moore because they've got a very soft run, and same with Will Day coming up. But we thought that the Richmond matchup was going to be mint for Dylan Moore, and he just couldn't get it done there.
Didn't work out.
I'm not comfortable with it. Is it fair to say I'm not comfortable with any of them except maybe Steele to Walsh? Because Rao, Anderson, Yo, Steele, they all feel very sidewaysy. Don't they?
Isn't it?
Because then Steele's not going to be playing off a half-forward flank for the rest of the season.
You wouldn't think so, mate. Surely not. Look, I don't like Moore to CurNOW. Look, and CurNOW's got a really nice short-term fixture comer. Moore does as well. So I'm not a fan of that. If I'm doing anything, I'm actually going Steele to Walsh if I had to choose something there. But I'm actually with you, brother. I'm not a huge fan of either of them, mate. But let us know if you've got any other options, mate. Comment down below, mate, and we'll do our best to help you again. We are flying through. Let's go through, Janath. Dazza Hall, g'day, Dazway, mate. G'day, boys. Some questions that will help me and hopefully others. Who to trade out this week, Steele or Laird?
Steele or not Laird?
Steele?
Not Laird, yeah. Steele.
Yeah.
Laird's playing off half back again.
Yeah, mate. That's not a bad thing, I don't think, as well.
That's a good thing for him, yeah.
And trade out next week, Clary or Green? Melbourne don't have a great run, do they? I don't think.
North Melbourne this week. If Clary doesn't get up for this week without Petrarca playing North Melbourne, he's almost done for, I reckon.
All right, so that's your test for this week. So if
Clary... And it's almost maybe this way. Let's put it this way: Green's playing the hardest midfield matchup. Clary's playing one of the easiest. I say one of the easiest because North Melbourne hasn't been too bad as a midfield matchup. If Clary can't outscore Green this week, it's pretty obvious it's Clary, isn't it?
Well, absolutely, we have to be, mate. We have to be. And last one here: is there a must-have for the rest of the year? I'm going to say no.
No.
If not, who's the best option this week?
LDU.
LDU. Janath, man. Get on Janath's pod, mate.
I've been on him.
Fire.
I've been on him for a while now.
I wish I had got him over Lockie Neal, to be honest, mate. But there we go, Daz. LDU for you, mate. Next one's from Danny. G'day, Danny. Hey, guys. Just after thoughts on Fife, Pickett, or Hollands.
Not Fife.
Oh, is it 23rd primo? Well, yeah. Well, I can tell you from owner's point of view, not Fife. Pickett CBAs went right up when track was obviously down. Hollands, you're a Carlton man. Look, if I was to pick anyone, I'm just going to go Pickett. Do you have anything different there, mate?
Yeah, the one thing as a 23rd primo that I really like about Holland is that DPP. I'm not sure if Cozzy has it.
Oh, he's
Cozzy
got
doesn't have it,
DPP.
but also Cozzy's an enigma because even when he gets midfield time, he hasn't really shown an ability to do much with it. Like I remember last year, a fair few of people got on him after the 144 suspension. But then he turned up once for the remainder of the season. Whereas Elijah Hollins, yes, cherished to come back in, but the last 3 weeks he's had 40, 50% CBAs, and he's scored 95 and 102. Break even of 0. I think there's worse picks than Hollins this week as a 23rd primo with that DPP. And I feel like we've talked about this schedule for Carlton coming up because as a Blues fan, we played a top 8 team for every week for quite a while now. So, yeah, I'd say Hollins, mate. His role looks really, really solid at the moment.
I didn't realize he had the DPP, so I'm absolutely with you. If he's got DPP, he's your 23rd. Absolutely, that would get me over the line, mate. All right, mate. We may need to go down to like 30 odd seconds now because we know that we do need to get to the end of the body now. Dice, how many trades do you think is the best amount to get us through the end of the season after full upgrades? I reckon 6 is fantastic. I could live with 4. Anything after that, I'm a little bit paranoid. Would you agree on that, mate?
Yep.
Beautiful. Snapshot BTG. Hey man, if you could only get one of CurNOW or Jackson F6, who would you take? So I think
I'll answer this very quickly with a very quick question, with a very quick answer. CurNOW, if you have more than 6 trades. Jackson, if you have less than 6.
Beautiful, mate. Done. Logie Jennings. Hey lads, keen to hear your thoughts on Cozzy Pickett as a get CurNOW next week to loop with him. Also for Janath. So I think we've just talked about that anyway, mate, about Cozzy. Also for Janath, what are your thoughts on TDK? Well, he reckons he's worth 20 million, mate, as a pod. Personally, can't see Pido coming back. But Boss seems to love playing him. Have a rip week, lads.
See Cheers, this Logie. Week, mate. And there's the beauty of it is that you can see whether Pidonet plays in the first game of the week. If he doesn't play this week, TDK is the man going forward.
Beautiful. All right, mate.
Get the I'm the man music going in the background.
Have to do that.
Aloe Black. What a song.
Love it. Thanks lots from Daddy. I'm losing my voice here as well. Is Green a keeper or worth the sideways trade? Again, I think it went back to the advice Janath's given before. It depends on how many trades you've got, mate. He's absolutely worth the sideways trade if you've got enough in the bank to be comfortable by finishing your side. Do you agree with that, Janath? If you got the luxury trades, get rid of him. If not, probably a hold for now, mate, and complete the team first.
Great.
Beautiful. Kara, g'day, guys. After 3 more brains to help with this team, well, you got 1.5 this week, mate. Last week was a fail for me, and I'm unsure on how to attack this week with rookies, upgrades, or any help. Tell you what, mate, I'll get back to this one because I'll need to have a really good look here, mate. Promise I'll get back to you. Cheers, man. Ladies, man, thoughts on this legends? Rosie and Hutchinson plays for Garcia and Freya will have 19 unless Hall plays. Hall won't play, mate. Unfortunately.
I don't mind it.
Yep, fine, mate. Go for a causer. Nakos 4 p.m. Love that name. Way, man. Hey, legends. Reckon this is a week where we need 18 primos on field. I have 16 with 6 and 5. But can upgrade if I need to. No, I don't think you need to have 18.
This is just where all 3 of us are lucky to be in this position because we planned for this week to be our best one. But if your other 3 rounds are better than this one, you could have 16 and it would be okay.
Yeah. So ideally, yes, but I wouldn't go that far, mate. CR7, hey legend, hey boys, I'm targeting a 23rd Premier this week. Do I bring in Rankin so I have the ability to loop CurNOW, or do I bring in a mid so I can loop Green and Steel? Do you know, you were saying about it before, Janath. It's so awkward, isn't it? Because these guys are sort of giving us tons, like flat tons, like what's the loopable score, what's not. Do you know what? I'd actually go CurNOW due to that really big ceiling, lower floor type stuff. So I'd actually bring in Rankin to loop CurNOW. Would you?
I was going to give you an interesting one because if you're going to bring in Rankin to loop CurNOW, you're basically bringing a mid to loop Green and Steel anyway. So Rankin kills 2 birds with 1 stone with that DPP, which I think he has. I'm just saying that off the dome. Oh, no, he's only a forward. But still, you would have a midfield forward there that can act as the loop between both lines.
Yeah, that's a good point, mate. Bringing out Isaac, mate. He's a legend. Twadsy, g'day, Twads. How are you, mate? Hey, fellas. Hope everything is well. You too, brother. What do you think of Trelaw as a last-minute upgrade? Ultra Pod, all the best this week. One thing that Janath did mention before is that most likely he's not going to be a tag target. Yep. So, do you know what? As a pod
Love it.
and a non-tag target,
he looks so good as well.
Still could go there?
He could. Next week, though. Not this week.
Next week, Dill. Next week. On you, buddy. J Rules 3434. Hey, man. Neil, Real, or someone else to finish the mids. Do us a favor, mate. Reply with your team, and I'll give you the best answer I can there, mate. Aeroax, hey, mate. G'day, lads. Have a blast consuming your content each week. Thanks, man. Much love to you all, and much love to you, brother. What are your thoughts on these two trades this week? Salem would be a floating loop, whereas CurNOW would be F5, F6 at the moment with Sexton in the team. So first one here, we've got Houston, CurNOW, Hutchinson for Sullivan, Fife, Freya. Nice. I really like that.
Like it, yeah.
Sullivan, Freya, Fife, Salem, Houston, Hutchinson. We're going number one, aren't we, mate?
CurNOW over Salem.
Yeah, absolutely, mate. Yeah, number one for us, brother. All the best luck. Cheers, man. Yeah. We must be getting close here. Oh, geez, we just talked about one of the legends of George in the content creating community. It's Swizz, our A Swizz. Make sure you check out Supercoach Insider. A bunch of absolute legends is Swizz, Benny, and Chris there. What midfielder makes way for Tim Taranto next week? Tim Taranto.
That's very tongue-in-cheek.
Our boy. Swizz is a Tigers man. So all the best, Swizz. Make sure, Supercoach Insider. Check out those legends.
That's it, mate.
Next one is, is he the biggest legend of the Swordplay community? I'm not too sure. He's right up there with the crown. Yes. G'day, gents. I've got 18 primos playing already in round 15 with 9 trades left. 180k in the bank. Nice, Cutter. Who do you suggest I pick up as my 22nd premium? Merritt, although taggers await him. Talked about that. Ridley via Dacos to mid. So Cutter's doing what a few of those other people thinking, just losing faith in the mids. Sicily via Dacos to mid, or Sinclair next week. Dacos to the mid. I am going B myself.
I'm going to go very quickly on this, and there's a reason why. Cutter's got 2 defensive onlys as D7 and D8. So this is almost a situation where you sort of want to have one of your defenders in the midfield with DPP. So, yes, Ridley, Sicily, Sinclair. I'd almost err on the side of going Sinclair with that DPP so that he provides another option to be able to swing between the 2 lines. You've got 18 premiers playing this week. You don't need Ridley this week. I think Sinclair averages more than Ridley on the run home.
Okay, beautiful, mate. All right, we have 3 more to go here, mate, and we have answered all the questions. So good work, brother. Is it too soon to request from track to cook sport trips?
That's bad. Why do we laugh at that?
Should have? Oh, no. Terrible person.
That's terrible. Have you seen the interview, by the way?
I have not.
Of everything that he went through? He was saying that when they did open surgery on him and he had a gas mask on and he was basically under anesthetic, and then he was isolated from everyone for 5 days, had to get all his vaccines back up to date because the spleen is like a stage 5 category, which is like the worst category of an injury, like a car crash, basically. The fact they put him out there on the field again, 1-4 footy podcast, but yes, no smoked ribs, please.
Poor bloke. Like, you wouldn't realise at the start how serious it was, but yeah, poor fella. Jay Macca, hey man, hey fellas, thoughts on which way to go? Got 7 trades after these. I'll tell you what, a lot to take in, mate. This will be another one we'll reply to, buddy, so we can give you the absolute best answer, mate.
If that's Jordan Dawson, the second trade, no way. He'll come good.
All right, so you're quick looking at this. You're going the first one if possible, mate.
If that's Jordan, that is Jordan Dawson, yeah.
It is Jordan Dawson. No. All right, so no for the second one, mate. And last one we got here is from Clarence Worthington. G'day, Clary. Thoughts on going green to Ridley or McGovern? Gives me 7 trades left, 200k, and only need an F6. With that in mind, prioritise Rankin or Jackson. Prefer Rankin, but the ruck coverage could be great. Yeah, we've talked about that a fair bit, haven't we? How important that ruck coverage is.
But again, I don't think the ruck coverage is going to do anything with the way your team's set up, unfortunately. Naismith at R3 means that you're going to have to trade Naismith out anyway if you want to have Jackson as your ruck cover. So it's almost like you just get a plain ruckman that week, or you just cop the donut. Unfortunately, that's the problem with having a ruck only R3. It really just stitched up a little bit. If you want next week, you could trade Naismith to Strachan if he's named, because I think if he's named next week after the bath he got from Grundy, he should be quite good to go for the rest of the season.
Yeah, who knows with Nixie at the moment, mate? What's going to happen there? Probably leading to the leadership group after last week, the way that Nixie's going. But probably that's a good point. I'd go Rankin then, mate, because if you got Naismith there as R3, and I'd much prefer Rankin over Jackson. If you take the ruck cover away, it's such an easy decision. But that's the way that.
And also you got Kruger anyway, so it's almost like worst case scenario. You could trade out Naismith, get Kruger up, and just get someone in Naismith's position. One thing that I'd be looking to do, mate, is fixing up that Naismith, because he's not going to play with the ACL injury. So I'd do anything to probably get a Livingston or just another rookie on another line and move Krug into the ruck. Something, even that would work, because it'd be acting like Livingston is there anyway.
Beautiful, mate. Well, brother, that is an absolute wrap for the mailbag. Thank you very much, as always, for your questions. All right, mate, we have 5 minutes left, brother. 5 minutes left.
Let's do this.
So let's quickly get through the captain's corner, and then we'll finish off quickly with our trades, mate.
Yeah, just very quickly, not many ideal captain options this week, I must admit. Sam Walsh not tomorrow. Friday is a pretty decent shout as a captaincy option. Don't mind it. Geelong give up points. Just wait and see whether Mark O'Connor's named in the team. That's going to be an interesting one. I was alluding to that Port Brisbane game, and I think that's just one we want to avoid in general. Dan Houston could be a decent shout, but again, designated kickers don't go overly well against Brisbane. And then the Giants-Sydney matchup, again, is one that is a bit interesting. I just have a bad feeling that there's going to be tags galore here as well with Bedford and James Jordan, respectively. So again, another one that I'd like to avoid. Brodie Grundy, you would think he has a good matchup playing in Sydney, I guess. But Kieran Briggs hasn't been the easiest ruckman to score against recently. But neither is Tristan Cherry, so Max Gawn. But the one stat that I will give with Max Gawn, I was saying this last time to you, mate. Melbourne have lost 5 times this season. Max Gawn's scores after those 5 games so far, have been 162, 162, 109, 180, 132. If there's any man that's going to come out and prove the critics or the D's wrong, it's going to be their captain, Maxi Gawn. And I think that's where the VC will lie this week. West Coast Essendon seems the most friendly Supercoach matchup in terms of points. And this is where I think bringing in Zach Merritt this week could be very handy. Now, it may even be, what does Max Gawn score on Saturday night? If he goes that big 150 type score, reassess. See whether you still need Zach Merritt. If you need a captain score this week, I think you're going to have to be looking in one of these last 2 games. Zach Merritt or Caleb Sarong against Gold Coast is also a good shout. I like to say that this game is tag proof. But
tag proof. Okay.
Dimmer doesn't tag. Justin Longmire decided that let's not tag Bont. Let's give him the whole centre bounce to work in.
Yes.
So does he tag? It's one to find out. If you're looking for a safe captain, Sam Flanders is probably the safest option. Hasn't gone under the ton so far this season. 13 straight tons. Let's hope I haven't jinxed it, knock on wood. But he's in ripping form. And I wouldn't pay much attention to his average versus opponent, average versus venue, because in his first 4 seasons, he's basically playing part-time mid, part-time forward, sub, whatever role he is, except what he's playing now.
Just dominating the VFL.
VFL, the Magoos. But DR, I think I'll be going Max Gawn into Zach Merritt / Sam Flanders.
And that was my plan as well, mate. Yep, Gawn into Merritt with potentially maybe a bit of a pod Sam Walsh to open up the week against that week of Geelong midfield, mate. So, although, Gorney's playing against Cherry, who doesn't give up a lot of points. We mentioned those bounce back games. It is Max Gorn. He's a different beast, mate. So I'll probably be going Gorn into Merritt myself.
Do you think, just a very quick one, that it's a week where if you get a 115, 120, you just take it in a heartbeat?
I do, because there's no obvious options here, mate. There's red flags everywhere here. I see red flags everywhere. And unless
these are the best options, by the way, that I think are the best options for this week off a curated list already.
Okay, this is what I'll say, mate. If my vice captain was to get a 115, I reckon the only play. This is going to sound almost silly. Now, maybe I shouldn't even say it, but I'd maybe just take a punt on a Flanders, because I reckon worst case scenario he gets you that type of score with the potential for some upside. I just don't see him going under the ton. He hasn't done it all year. I don't see why he'd start this week. So
Bailey Dale scored 130 again against Fremantle as well. So they're a bit susceptible to some fast ball movement. So we'll just have to wait and see how that all unfolds.
Beautiful, mate. All right, let's finish off. I've got a couple of minutes, mate. So let's quickly talk about these trades of the week. Spilsy obviously isn't here, but he's looking to get Jolly Boy out along with Toby Pink. In comes Warner. Hopefully he gets a game, but we're really not sure. A little bit dicey at the moment. And Elliot Yo. Then we get to my trades, Janath. And let me tell you, I don't love them. I've got the decision this week to either do what I'm doing here by trading out Hoare, Garcia, and Jolly Boy, two of which I'm counting as basically dead rookies now. Hoare, I don't see getting another game. I know he's injured, but even when he was fit and available and there was opportunity for a spot down back, they still didn't select him. So I'm sort of counting him as a bit of a dead one at the moment. Garcia, look, they're playing Zach Jones. I don't know why, but it's like he's gone to the Amazon. And then Joel is obviously got the bye this week, but he's been doing it right. And I think he's got a little bit more money to make. But by getting Hutchinson, Sard, and Yo, I'll be basically getting rid of 2 dead rookies for 1.5 dead rookies, really, and getting that final premium in. In order to upgrade Yo to a McGovern, a Ridley, a Houston, a Jordan Clark, instead of a Garcia, it would have to be a Bruce Revel / Nat Fife, who are blokes that are actually getting games each week, and they can be potential cover for me for the year. So my big decision is, do I keep someone for that extra cover, like your Fife, like your Brucey, and go with a Yo who's at a cheaper price and red flags with injury, or do I get rid of a Fife, that extra cover, and say it'll be worth getting that good cover out because I know that the premium I'm getting in is going to be one of the top-notch ones. So it's either this scenario or getting out, let's just say, a Fife as well, and then bringing in Jordan Ridley. So that's my big dilemma at the moment, mate. I'm leaning towards going with Yo at the moment. I'll have finished with 6 trades and pretty much completed sides. So this is where I'm currently going. But with the way Fife's playing, really, do we even want him as cover? I'm not too sure, mate. So they're my trades for the week, mate.
Nah, love it, mate. And it'll be interesting to see the battle of the West Coast defenders moving forward. I guess McGovern, Yo.
Yeah, it's like,
what could go wrong?
Yo and Neil, Spilsy and I, against your Gavin Dunkley, mate. So we'll see how that goes. That'll be an interesting watch.
It'll be good.
Interesting to track that. Finish off with yours, mate. What are you looking to do here, brother?
So in the trek for top 100, I'm being extremely stingy with money here. So Joel Frazier plays North next week. So that's just a matchup that I was been targeting for a couple of weeks now, that try to eke out as much money as possible there without sort of stagnating upgrades. So going Will Graham, most likely to, because if Steele and Sullivan didn't drop dropped less than 5.5k combined, I could have done Sullivan and Steele to Merritt and Kerner. That would have been ideal.
Ooh,
but as we know, Jack Steele just decides to turn into not the man of steel. Drops 10k. Sullivan doesn't go up much, and so have to get rid of Graham to go through with these trades. But yeah, so hopefully we'll see Sexton named. If not, I'll try to set up a trade where I can get Rankin in one trade next week. So that's the plan. It. That's the goal.
Get your boy back
hopefully end the team with 5 trades.
Beautiful, mate. Beautiful. I like them. Awesome. And I tell you what, CurNOW and Zeret in this week, Graham and Steele, Very nice points on field for you, brother. And that is why you are up there with the best of the best.
How many trades would you end with, DR? What are you tracking for, mate?
6, mate. So after these trades here, I'll have 6, which gives me enough room to be able to upgrade a sexton type if I need to. So it's an easy Brucey sexton gone, for example, and then your ranking most likely comes in for me, I think, mate. Awesome. Brother, that is us done for the week. And do you know what? We are 3 minutes over time. I reckon that's been an absolute record. That's been a record, particularly with me trying to host it this week, mate. We obviously missed our great mate Spilsy, and it's never the same without him, without the chiller here. But Spilsy, I know that you will be tuning in, mate. Hope you get better soon, brother. Great to see that you are going a lot better outside of Supercoach and within Supercoach, mate, going a lot better as well, rising up those ranks, my man. So, Spilsy, looking forward to seeing you next week, mate, and a very, very quick recovery. Janath, what are you going to leave us with this week, mate?
Yeah, so just a couple of housekeeping things. With merchandise, I know some of it's been delayed. We're really sorry for that. We just had some unforeseen circumstances happen in the last couple of months. So we'll get to that. In return, we're going to bring back the community appreciation podcast again. Maybe even a couple. You know, but the first one was that successful that we may even do a couple now that the content's going to wind back a little bit, given, you know, after buyers, it really does slow down a little bit. So we may even have a couple community appreciation podcasts. So stay tuned for that. We'll get on some guests from the community amongst you guys, obviously. So if you'd like to be involved, reach out to us, and that'll be really, really nice. Good luck in the last buy round. As always, go back and have a look at what your ranking was at the start of round 11 and then at the end of round 15. The end of round 11, end of round 15, and see whether or not you improved. That's the main thing.
Love it, mate. Love it. Well, guys, as always, thank you very, very much for tuning in. Hope that you're well. As Janath said, all the best of luck for this week, and we'll see you in the next one. Cheers, guys. Take care, brother.